What's up, guys? Today I'm going to bring you another deck. So we are on day 4 of trying to do 7 straight for new decks every day. Today's deck is a reimagination of the old deck I was running called D&D, which is Daybreak and Dragons. And yeah, it's just a blast of a deck. There's a lot of new cards that help, and two, I think I end up with just two in particular that are really helping this deck. You have some other options as well, but I want to record a quick video breaking down the deck, talking about some decisions we made. And then, just talk, maybe run one game, just talk about, the game plan, how to win, things like that. And mulligans, matchups, things, along those lines. I actually just finished in the gauntlet, and this deck I played 7 times. I lost one game with it, and then I had to play one other game. So I went 7-1 in the gauntlet to get my first Prime Glory. So let's jump in. And as I'm transitioning, guys, we're doing a giveaway for a really sweet mouse pad. So if you're interested in that, just comment on these videos up until the 24th, and then we'll do a little raffle. It has to be NA only, just because shipping costs are insane. But so this deck here, Daybreak and Dragons. So it's Leona, Shyvana, and then one Aurelian Soul. So we just kind of run the early Daybreak curve. It's a really strong curve with the Priestess, the Shield Bearer, the Soldier, Leona, Shyvana. Now you have the Sunforger added to this deck. This dude helps the Daybreak curve immensely. He's absolutely insane against aggro. A lot of times, they're already a pretty good curve against aggro because you have solid units, but if they go really wide, you can struggle, and you're only running one 1-drop and one 2-drop, so we do miss that occasionally. So the Sunforger really helps solidify your health total right there on turn 4. Obviously, Raven's super legit. Eclipse Dragon is another added Daybreak character who's just insane, super strong value. And then we run one Aurelian Soul because Eclipse Dragon into a Soul is really strong. That's point A. We are running enough dragons, including the Screeching Dragon with Shyvana, to actually level her up, because Eclipse Dragon's obviously massive, and Aurelian Soul can have a possibility to level. Obviously, be played on turn 8 is massive with Eclipse, but Aurelian Soul can still just be a super strong target at the end that has Spell Shield that's super hard to get rid of. So he's really solid as well. The new cards we're running, like I said, Sunforger just immensely helps the Daybreak curve. Both the Sunforger and Eclipse Dragon, I can't be happier with them. Nightfall saw some good cards too get added as Monuments of Power in this set came out, but I feel like Daybreak really got two of the best cards. I think Eclipse Dragon is one of the best cards that's come out in a while, and Sunforger is definitely one of. So the Daybreak curve is looking really good. You add that with the new landmark that I for sure underrated in the Grand Plaza. It is super solid, 3-drop. It's really good with Daybreak because, you can use it on things like the Shield Bearer, who will have a massive health total, so he'll get a free trade. But also just on turn 4, Sunforger is nasty because now you have a 6-attack life-stealing challenger, which is just massive. But there's actually a lot of value with it with Shyvana as well. So on curve, Shyvana can actually be a straight up 4/4. She'll go to a 5/5 with Challenger, and then on attack, she'll be a 6/6. So if you're attacking on evens with that, it's massive. 6/6 dragon that half levels her with one attack, and she gets to pick apart somebody as she has Challenger there, and then she gets that pseudo health buff that she already has built in, but on top of it with Grand Plaza. So super strong. Whole point of the deck is stabilize a really strong mid game. Stabilize it so hard that you have a really strong advantage between turn 6 and 8, and then try to finish with some stuns and some heavy damage through, or a usual finish is just dropping a Relentless Pursuit and getting the damage through that way. And that's pretty much it. Strong mid game. You have single combat to play around things. You have Pale Cascade. You have Hush, and then of course you have Concerted Strike as well. So plenty of combat tricks. There is a lot more that you could add to this deck for sure. You could add a Star Shaping. There's a lot of other cards in the Dragon package. You could add the Dragon Rally card himself. If you want more of a finisher, you could add Cytherea the Bold. So you can have Fearsome to go through. Vox's great hand generation. There's really, also up here, there's some good 8-drops here. We have Infinite and Tiana. Judgment's a really solid card with dragons. Sky's Descend is solid with dragons, but we're not full in on the dragon package. Like I said, we're running Shyvana, Screeching, Eclipse, and A-Soul, and it's only 1 A-Soul and 2 Shyvana, so it's only 9 dragons total. So I am not running the Behold a Dragon cards like the Lookout and the early ones, and I'm really being a little greedy with my early drops. And I think this is the weakness of the deck before the Grand Plaza and particularly the Sunforger. I feel like you kind of had to run an extra 1 or 2 drop to survive against certain decks. So a lot of times you would run the Lieutenant, who's totally fine. You have to have a few more dragons most likely, but he's really solid. Or the Egghead to actually just get that hand value for chump blockers. Kind of had to run that before, but now with Grand Plaza out, and more importantly, the Sunforger on turn 4, you can really make up a huge damage swing and lifesteal back up to, an acceptable value as you stabilize that mid-range. So that's pretty much the deck here, guys. Matchup-wise, it's a Demacia combat deck. Those are always going to be bad into Frostbite, pretty much across the board, right? We don't have that many buffs, surprise buffs other than Pale Cascade. So, yeah, and you can obviously hush your own unit, but that's pretty bad into Frostbite in general. Into Go Hard, it can be slightly annoying in the sense that you do have no real way to get Overwhelm unless you get Raven to give you a Zenith Blade. So if they have a lot of chump blockers, it can be annoying. But on the flip side of that, Challenger is super good into Go Hard to remove TF, to get Elise off the board and things like that. So, you have a possibility and you can lifesteal back up pretty nicely as well. But in general, it can still be somewhat of a rough matchup. Just because we're not running Bastion to get, to avoid the pack your bags and things like that. But can be all right. Into discard aggro and things like that, if you get a unit or two, you're probably fine. If not, if you can stabilize with Sunforger like we've been talking about, you're totally set, which is great. That's pretty much into most mid-range decks. Into elusives, you're pretty good too. I know elusives have been going around a little bit more with Victor and Lulu being, or Zoe being out. It's pretty solid. Definitely consideration is running Sharpsight. It's an amazing card, and it might even just want to be in here already. The problem is you do have a lot of 2-cost spells in this region combination that you want to run. Pale, Hush, and Single are all great. Hush obviously really helps into elusives as the single combat. So if it really became like a super elusive heavy meta, you could drop Pale Cascade for Sharpsight or drop something else for Sharpsight to do that. But it's already a pretty good matchup because Challenger really helps get Zoe out, get Victor out, any of the elusives. So yeah, a pretty clean matchup table across the board. Like I said, Frostbite's your big weakness that you're looking at. But other than that, you're pretty solid. Mulligan-wise, Grand Plaza, 100% want to have Grand Plaza if you can. That's super solid. The 1 and 2 drop's great. And then if you do have Grand Plaza, you could probably just keep Sunforger, Leona, Shyvana, any of your 4 drops. Pretty much pitch anything 5 or above. And you don't really want your early buffs. You don't want single combat. You don't want Hush or Pale Cascade. You definitely don't want Relentless Pursuit either. So, kind of where you're at with the deck. Pretty clean. There's a lot of other options you can play with, and Grand Plaza is a really solid card, and there's a ton of Grand Plaza decks going around. This isn't one that abuses the fact that you can use the Grizzled Ranger or anything like that, where he gets to attack twice, and he'll be a 4-2 and then die, and then the Bear will also be a 4-5 with Challenger. You're not really abusing anything like that or using any spells to summon something on turn 3. You're kind of just taking your lumps early and then getting a nice Sunforger play on 3 with that, or on turn 4 with Grand Plaza out. So that's the deck. So let's run a game. I call it D&D because, so there's the Gauntlet. Just got Prime Glory. Went 7-1 in it today. I brought in D&D. I brought in Victor Invoke, which is another video on that as well. And then I brought in Lee Riven. Lee Riven got banned the most. I played D&D 7 times and Victor Invoke once. I only lost 1 game with D&D. So that was where we're at. So D&D went 6-1 on the day with it, which was solid. And yeah, so that's it. So if you guys are enjoying...